Hey mathematics learners, welcome to Distance Learning with Lee, where I make learning mathematics super easy. So on today's video tutorial, guys, we're going to be having a look at area. We're going to be talking about what is area, how do we define area, all right? And I'm also going to be showing you guys how we calculate the areas of the following shapes: a rectangle, okay, a square, a circle, and a triangle. Okay, so before we get started with today's video tutorial, guys, please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Please make sure that you click on that notification bell so that you get notified every single time I upload a video tutorial, guys. And also, please don't forget to give all these video tutorials a huge thumbs up, because that really helps the channel grow and it helps the channel to reach more learners that want to better their mathematics marks. So without any further ado, guys, let's get started with today's video tutorial. So what is area, guys? Okay, how do we define area? Okay, so area is defined as the surface, okay, that is occupied by a 2D object, okay, or the space that is occupied by a 2D object, okay. What do I mean by this? Okay, if you think of, for example, just a plain sheet of paper, okay, if you had to basically take that plain sheet of paper and you were to put it on your table, okay, that 2D flat piece of paper takes up space on your table, okay. And how do we then determine the amount of space, okay, that object is taking up on your table? We calculate the area of that object. Okay, so for example, just to start it off on a high note so that you guys understand what I'm talking about, if we basically have, so just pretend this is our table. Okay, so we're basically looking at this table from the top, so we can't see the legs of this table. Okay, and like I just said, we basically have like an A4 piece of paper that you now put on this table, okay? And I mentioned that this A4 paper, or this piece of paper, takes up space on our table, okay? So let me just color it in, okay? And to be able to determine the amount of space that this paper is taking up on our table, we need to calculate the area of this paper. Okay, and how would we calculate the area of this paper? We will be required, or we will need, okay, the length of this piece of paper, and we would also need the breadth of this piece of paper. So we would need the length and we would need the breadth. Okay, and once we have the length and the breadth of this piece of paper, we will be able to then calculate the area of this piece of paper, and therefore be able to determine how much space on this table this paper is taking up. Okay, so that is basically what we're doing when we are calculating area. We are just determining the space that a 2D shape takes up. Okay, the space that a 2D shape takes up. Okay, so that is basically what we're doing. So on this video tutorial, guys, I'm going to be showing you guys how we calculate the area of a rectangle, how we calculate the area of a square. Okay, I know this looks like a rectangle, but let's just assume it's a square, and how we calculate the area of a circle as well as a triangle. Okay, the formulas that we use to help us calculate areas of these shapes, and I'm going to be discussing these formulas. And then, okay, just before we end the video tutorial, we are going to be looking at just a quick activity where we're going to be calculating the areas of these shapes. Okay, so let's get started. So now, how would we calculate the area of a rectangle? So here, you all can see that we basically given a rectangle, okay? And I did mention, okay, in the introduction, that for us to be able to calculate the area of a rectangle, right, we basically need the length of that rectangle, okay? And we also need the breadth of that rectangle. Okay, and once we have the length and the breadth of that rectangle, we are going to be able to calculate the total area of this rectangle. Okay, so then from here, to calculate the area of this rectangle, what do we then do? We just purely just take the length of this rectangle multiplied by the breadth of this rectangle, and that is going to give us the area. Okay, and it's very important that because in South Africa, guys, we use the metric system of measurement, right? Area, when we calculate area has to be in the units: kilometers squared, meters squared, centimeters squared, and millimeters squared. So it's important that you guys note that area is calculated in units squared. And I'm going to show you guys why I say this, okay? Let's say now they actually give us actual dimensions for this rectangular shape. They tell us that the length of this rectangle is 15 centimeters, and they tell us that the breadth of this rectangle is equal to 5 centimeters. Okay, so we can now use this formula to help us then calculate the area of this rectangle, because now we have actual values that we can substitute into this formula. Okay, so then in this case, to calculate the area of this rectangle, we just simply take 15 centimeters multiplied by 5 centimeters. Okay, and if you punch this into your calculator, 15 multiplied by 5 is equal to 75. So 15 multiplied by 5 is 75. And then why did I say that the units for area is centimeters squared, millimeters squared, meters squared, kilometers squared? Because you see here, if you take centimeters and you multiply with centimeters, what will be the units that you get? It will be centimeters squared. Okay, right? So this is just also tapping into just laws of exponents, which if you're multiplying powers with the same base, you add your exponents. So that is why then in this case, right, our units are supposed to be centimeters squared and not just centimeters, because we've multiplied 15 centimeters and centimeters, therefore it has to be centimeters squared. Okay, it's just the basic laws of exponents that they've basically applied there, and that is why we raise it to the power of 2. Okay, so a or 1, let's just say 2a multiplied by 3a. Okay, what happens here? 2 multiplied by 3 is 6a multiplied by a is a squared. Okay, so they've basically just applied that concept there. That is why we raise it to the power of 2. Okay, basic laws of exponents that we've learned in grade 8, that we've learned in grade 9. Okay, let's have a look at the next question. How would we then calculate now the area that is covered by a square? Okay, so same here. If you are given a square, what do we know about the dimensions of a square? So we know that all sides of our square are equal. Okay, so because of this, when we have to now calculate the area of a square, the formula that we use, it's just length times length. Okay, because this here, this is the length of our square. Okay, and we know that all sides of our square is equal, right? If we want to calculate the area of our square, then from there we just say area is equal to length times length. Okay, because that is also the length. Okay, because all sides are equal. Okay, that is also the length there, right? And then it's just length times length. And we can just also just write that in a more simpler form, and that is length squared. Okay, so when we're calculating the area of a square, okay, the formula that we use to calculate the area of a square is equal to length squared. The formula that we use to calculate the area of a rectangle is length times breadth. Okay, all right. And from there, let's just now apply this, right? Let's say we are basically given the length, right? And we are told that, okay, the length of this square is equal to 18 meters. Okay, then how would we therefore calculate the area that is taken up by this particular square, right? So to substitute it into our formula, we know that, okay, area of a square is equal to length times length, or its length squared. So from there, we're just going to substitute that 18 meters squared into our formula. And then what happens then? 18 squared is equal to 324. Meters squared is meters squared. Remember, guys, okay, just keep the units in your working out so that you can see what is happening. So there, m squared is meters squared. And then that is our final answer there. Okay, right. Then, now let's have a look at just calculating the area of a circle. Okay, if you're given a circle, okay, if you're given a circle, it's very important that you note, okay, from that circle, are you given the diameter of the circle, or are you given the radius? Okay, so let's say, for example, you are given the radius of a circle, right? And we know the radius is defined as, okay, the length of a line from the center of a circle, okay, to the outer part of our circle. So that is your radius there. From the center to the outer part, that is defined as our radius. Okay, so if you're given a circle with a radius r, okay, how would we then calculate the area of the circle? Okay, so to calculate the area of a circle that has radius r, okay, the formula that we use is area is equal to pi multiplied by the radius squared. Okay, and we know that pi is just approximately equal to 3.142 if I just round it off to 3 decimal places. And then if we wanted to then calculate the total area that this surface is just that this circle is just taking up, right, we would just then use the formula of pi multiplied by r squared. Okay, but we could also just think of just calculating the area of a circle in a different way. Okay, let's say we are also given, so this is just one of the formulas that we can use to calculate the area of a circle. Okay, just to also open up your minds up to different ways of thinking. Okay, we can also use this formula to calculate the area of a circle if, let's say, for example, you're given a diameter. Okay, so if they give you the diameter of this circle, guys, we know that a diameter, I'm going to just label that with a D, that is the length of a line from the outer part of your circle going through the center of a circle to the outer part of a circle. Okay, so this is your diameter. So let's say you're given a question that has a diameter. How would we then calculate the area of that circle, okay, given that diameter? Okay, so this is or, okay, we can also use this formula. Okay, so we're going to use this initial equation as our starting point. Okay, we know that, okay, okay, the radius, okay, how do we get the radius of a circle? We know that the radius of a circle is actually equal to the diameter of our circle divided by 2. That's one thing that we know, all right? Radius is equal to diameter divided by 2. So, for example, if we were just given that blue line there, that diameter, and we wanted to calculate the radius, all that we'd have to do for us to get the radius, we just take this diameter and then we divide it by 2, and that would give us the radius. Okay, right. So from there, knowing this, we can basically change this equation that we have here, okay, and write it as an equation that has your diameter. If, for example, you just wanted to just use the diameter as it is, how would we then calculate your area? Okay, so here we just then take, okay, area, remember, we already know that it's equal to pi multiplied by r squared. Okay, so that is equal to pi multiplied by, what do we know about the radius? Okay, we already know that the radius is equal to the diameter divided by 2. So where we see r, we can just write d divided by 2. Okay, close your brackets, all squared. Okay, so what happens now? Okay, what we see now is that, okay, that area equation, if you wanted to calculate the area of a circle by just using your diameter, you can also just say pi multiplied by d over 2 all squared is the same as just writing it as d squared over 2 to the power of 2 is 4. Okay, so that is another equation or another way that we can look at it, right? If you wanted to calculate the area of a circle by just using the diameter without just maybe taking your diameter and dividing by 2 to get your radius. Okay, so I'm just doing this just to also open your mind up to just different ways of looking at how we can calculate the area of a circle. Okay, so now let's just put this into practice now, all right? How would we then calculate the area of this particular circle that has a radius of, so let's say we're given a circle and this circle has a radius of, let's just make it 7 millimeters. Okay, how would we then calculate the area of this circle? Okay, so I'm just going to move this to the side. Okay, so to calculate the area of this particular circle, right, just using this formula for area that has the radius, we just say, we already know that area is equal to pi multiplied by r squared. Okay, we already know that. I'm just going to round off my pi to 2 decimal places, so it's 3.142 multiplied by, what is my radius equal to? My radius is equal to 7 millimeters all squared. Okay, then from there we're just going to punch everything into our calculator. Okay, please note here, okay, if you punch it into your calculator, you're going to take 3.142 multiplied by, open your bracket, 7, close your brackets, to the power of 2. That gives you 153.958. And remember here, we've got millimeters squared because we squared the 7. Okay, so we also need to square that those millimeters. So it's millimeters squared. Okay, so that is the area of this circle. All right. Okay. Now, what happens, let's say, for example, we just wanted to check to see if we would get the same answer if we use this equation that I've also given you here, where you can calculate the area of a circle by just using the diameter. Let's say we wanted to also do that. Okay. Let's say we wanted to also do that. So in this case, let's say they gave you the diameter, okay, of 14 millimeters. Okay, they gave you that the diameter is equal to, I'm going to say D is equal to 14 millimeters. So let's apply this equation to help us calculate now the area of this circle by just using the diameter. It will be area is equal to, using this formula, pi multiplied by D squared over 4. Okay, so what does that mean? We already know that our pi, if I just round it off to 3 decimal places, is 3.142 multiplied by, what is our diameter? Our diameter is 14 millimeters all squared divided by 4. Okay, let's put this into our calculator. We're going to just take that 3.142 multiplied by, okay, press that fraction button on your calculator. Open your bracket, 14, close your bracket, to the power of 2 all over 4. You will still get the same answer of 153.958. Remember, guys, we've got that millimeters squared. Squared. So that millimeters also needs to be squared. Okay, so therefore it's going to be millimeters squared. Okay, remember area, the units for area is either millimeters squared, centimeters squared, kilometers squared, meters squared. It is units squared, depending on the units that you are given in your question. And lastly, guys, how would we then calculate the area of a triangle? Okay. So in this case, we are given a triangle. Okay. We are given the base of this triangle. Okay. And we're also given the perpendicular height. Okay. This base is at 90 degrees to this height. Okay. It's the perpendicular height. Okay. So to calculate then the area of a triangle, if you're given the base of that triangle and you're also given the perpendicular height of that triangle, will be area is equal to, area of a triangle is equal to half multiplied by the base multiplied by the perpendicular, which they use the sign to indicate perpendicular, most teachers, okay, perpendicular height. Okay, so this is the formula that we use to help us calculate the area of any triangle. Okay, you need that perpendicular height. Okay, so let's just practicalize this. Okay, let's say, for example, you are given your triangle, okay, and your triangle has a base of 5 centimeters, and the perpendicular height is 8 centimeters, right? Let me just change the base. So the base is 15 centimeters and the perpendicular height is 8 centimeters. How would we then calculate the area of this triangle? Okay, we already know it's equal to half base multiplied by perpendicular height. So it's going to be 1 over 2 multiplied by, what is the base of this triangle? The base of this triangle, the length of the base is 15 centimeters multiplied by, what is the perpendicular height? The perpendicular height is 8 centimeters. Okay, and then from there, if you punch it into a calculator, 1 over 2 or half multiplied by 15 multiplied by 8, you will get 60 centimeters multiplied by centimeters is centimeters squared. Okay, and that is then the area of this triangle, meaning this triangle is taking up space of 60 centimeters squared on your flat surface. That is the space that this triangle is taking up. Okay, so that is basically how we go about calculating area of the following, the shapes that I've basically given to you. Okay, calculating area of your rectangle, calculating area of your square, calculating area of your circle, and also calculating area of a triangle. Okay, it's also important that we realize and we remember that when we're calculating area, guys, we are just trying to determine the space that is being taken up by a 2D shape, right? Remember, when I talk about a 2D shape, I'm just talking about a flat surface, okay? A flat shape, right? In any situation, how much space your piece of paper is taking up on your table, just to think of it more practically. Okay, just with that example that I've given you there. Okay, so now in the next video tutorial, we're just going to also just apply this concept. We're going to be calculating the areas of the following shapes. Okay, taking into consideration the units that are given to us, right? If we're given units in meters, okay, then you need to then make sure that your final answer for area needs to be in meters squared. Okay, and I showed you guys why it's supposed to be squared. Okay, if your unit is in centimeters, final answer will be centimeters squared. But if your units are different, there we've got millimeters and centimeters, then you need to pay attention to the instruction that you are given in your test, okay, in terms of what are the units that you're supposed to use, or you need to first convert and make the units the same first before you can even calculate the area of that shape. So please make sure that you watch the next video tutorial, because we're going to be having a look at this exercise together. We're going to be calculating the areas of the following shapes. Okay, see you guys on my next upload. That is it, guys, and I'll see you guys on my next upload, Distance Learning with Lee, where I make learning mathematics super easy. Bye, guys.